Welcome back to our channel. Today we'll delve into the life of a gifted actress whose career was defined by a tragic and profound paradox. The very illness that would eventually take her life was what gave her the unique childlike qualities that made her a star. This is the story of a girl whose dreams of Olympic glory were shattered in an instant, who channeled that fierce competitive spirit into a remarkable Hollywood career, and who left behind a legacy of laughter, defiance, and courage that far outshone her private pain. This is the remarkable, heartbreaking, and truly inspiring story of Dana Hill. To truly understand Dana Hill's extraordinary journey and the immense obstacles she overcame, we have to step back into the America of the 1970s and 80s. It was a time of immense cultural shift, a period of transition that reshaped both Hollywood and the public's understanding of health and celebrity. The gritty, auteur-driven cinema of the new Hollywood era, with its dark themes and complex anti-heroes, was giving way to the age of the blockbuster. Films like Star Wars, Jaws, and E.T. the Extraterrestrial weren't just movies, they were cultural events that captivated the nation. This new era often placed young actors at the very center of the story. The 1980s in particular became the decade of the teen star, with directors like John Hughes and Steven Spielberg creating iconic roles that turned talented kids like Molly Ringwald, Michael J. Fox, and Drew Barrymore into household names. There was a voracious appetite for authentic, relatable young performers who could capture the angst and humor of adolescence. Simultaneously, in the world of medicine, type 1 diabetes, then commonly and somewhat misleadingly known as juvenile diabetes, was a formidable and deeply misunderstood disease. This was a time long before the relative convenience of insulin pumps, continuous glucose monitors, and the sophisticated fast-acting insulins that are available today. For a child diagnosed in the 1970s, managing the condition was a grueling round-the-clock manual job. It meant a life of multiple painful daily insulin injections, often with large needles that had to be sterilized and reused. It meant a highly restrictive diet, where carbohydrates had to be meticulously weighed and measured. Blood sugar testing, the cornerstone of modern diabetes management, was a primitive and imprecise science, often involving cumbersome urine tests that provided only a vague, delayed picture of what was happening inside the body. It was a disease that demanded relentless vigilance and often carried a heavy social stigma. Children with diabetes were sometimes viewed as fragile or different, and the fear and lack of public understanding could be incredibly isolating. It was into this world, a world of burgeoning opportunity in Hollywood and of immense, unseen personal challenge, that Dana Hill would forge her unique and unforgettable path. Dana Lynn Getz was born on May 6, 1964, in Los Angeles, California, to her parents Ted and Sandy Getz. Her father, a successful commercial director, meant that the world of cameras, scripts, and sets was a familiar backdrop to her childhood. But from her earliest years, Dana's passion wasn't for acting, it was for athletics. And she wasn't just a kid who liked to play sports. She was, by all accounts, a prodigy. She was a tiny, determined dynamo of energy, with a powerful physique and an unshakable will to win. She channeled this energy into the demanding world of gymnastics. By the age of 10, she was one of the top-ranked gymnasts in the entire country for her age group. Her family, her coaches, everyone who saw her perform, believed she was on a clear trajectory for the Olympics. She had the talent, the discipline, and the fierce competitive spirit that separates champions from contenders. Her life was mapped out on a path of chalk dust, balance beams, and the pursuit of athletic perfection. But in the spring of 1974, just weeks before her 10th birthday, her world and her body came crashing down. Dana was competing in a track and field meet running for her school. As she pushed down the track, her body, which had been secretly waging a war against itself for months, finally gave out. She collapsed. In the ensuing panic and confusion, she was rushed to the hospital. The diagnosis was swift, clinical, and absolutely devastating. Type 1 diabetes. Her body's own immune system had mistakenly identified the insulin-producing beta cells in her pancreas as foreign invaders and had systematically destroyed them. Her life and her meticulously planned dreams were irrevocably altered in that moment. The doctor's words were blunt and unequivocal. The rigorous, high-stakes world of elite competitive gymnastics was no longer possible. The intense physical stress was simply too dangerous for a body that could no longer regulate its own blood sugar. The dream of Olympic gold, the central focus of her young life, was gone. For a 10-year-old girl whose entire identity was wrapped up in her athletic prowess, it was a soul-crushing blow. Many children, and indeed many adults, would have crumbled under the weight of such a diagnosis and the catastrophic loss of such a profound dream. But Dana Hill was not most children. The same fierce competitive fire that had propelled her on the gymnastics floor was still there, burning as brightly as ever. It just needed a new outlet, a new direction. With her athletic career over, and with the gentle encouragement of her father, she turned her focus toward the family business, acting. She began auditioning for commercials, and it quickly became apparent that her talent was not limited to the gymnasium. She possessed a raw, unteachable emotional honesty and a unique, raspy voice that made people take notice. Her voice, some doctors speculated, may have even been affected by the hormonal changes brought on by the onset of her diabetes. Her youthful appearance, a direct and cruel consequence of her illness stunting her physical growth, meant she could convincingly play characters much younger than her actual age. This physical reality born from her disease became her professional calling card. She began landing roles in television, appearing in a 1978 episode of the family drama Family, and guest starring in The Paul Williams Show. But her true breakthrough, the role that announced her as a serious dramatic force to be reckoned with, came in 1982. She was cast in the critically acclaimed and emotionally raw film Shoot the Moon, directed by the brilliant Alan Parker. In Shoot the Moon, a harrowing and unflinchingly intimate look at the dissolution of a marriage, Dana played Sherry, the eldest and most perceptive daughter of characters played by screen legends Albert Finney and Diane Keaton. She was 17 years old at the time, playing a 13-year-old, and she more than held her own against two of the finest actors of their generation. Her performance was a revelation. It was nuanced, heartbreaking, and utterly believable. She captured the anger, confusion, and deep-seated pain of a child watching her family disintegrate. The iconic film critic Pauline Kael, known for her sharp and often unforgiving prose, singled Dana out for special praise in her New Yorker review, writing, "The child performers are a wonder. The actress Dana Hill, as the oldest, has a frighteningly grown-up face. She's a tiny, pale, freckled girl with a shadowed, tragic mask and a voice that's scratchy and worn like a 40-year-old's. It was a star-making turn, earning her a Young Artist Award and establishing her as one of the most promising and gifted young actresses in Hollywood. Throughout the early 1980s, she worked consistently, delivering memorable performances that showcased her incredible range. In 1983, she starred in Cross Creek, a beautifully shot film about the author Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings, playing a young girl who befriends the writer and inspires her work. She also appeared in a notable two-part episode of Magnum P.I. in 1984, proving her ability to handle primetime television drama. She was proving her versatility, moving seamlessly between television and film, comedy and drama, all while privately managing the relentless demands of her illness. And then, in 1985, came the role that would cement her place in pop culture history and make her a familiar face to millions around the globe. She was cast as Audrey Griswold, the teenage daughter of Clark and Ellen Griswold, in the comedy sequel National Lampoon's European Vacation, taking over the role from Dana Barron, who had played Audrey in the original 1983 Vacation. Hill completely redefined the character. She was 21 years old at the time of filming, but her perpetually youthful appearance and that signature gravelly voice made her the perfect embodiment of a sullen, slightly rebellious, and endlessly mortified American teenager dragged across Europe against her will. Her comedic timing was impeccable. Whether she was bemoaning her expanding waistline in a Bavarian village or getting caught in a farcical daydream about her jock boyfriend back home, she was hilarious. Her on-screen chemistry with Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo, and her new on-screen brother, played by Jason Lively, was a key ingredient in the film's enduring success. The movie was a box office smash, and Dana Hill, with her distinctive look and unforgettable sound, became an icon of 80s comedy. As the 80s transitioned into the 90s, Dana's career began to evolve. While she continued to take on live-action roles in films and television, the physical toll of her diabetes was becoming more challenging to manage on demanding 14-hour-a-day film sets. She found a new and wonderfully welcoming home in the world of voice acting. Here, her unique voice, once described as that of a 40-year-old, was not just an asset, it was a superpower. In the anonymous world of the recording booth, her physical appearance didn't matter. All that mattered was the character and emotion she could convey with her voice alone. She could be a young boy, a feisty animal, or an alien, and the audience would believe it. In 1992, she landed the role that would introduce her to a whole new generation of fans and become one of her most beloved legacies. She was cast as the voice of Max Goof, the adolescent son of the beloved Disney character Goofy, in the animated series Goof Troop. She brought Max to life with a perfect blend of coolness and vulnerability. He was a good kid, but not a perfect one. He was often embarrassed by his bumbling father, but loved him fiercely all the same. Dana's performance captured that complex father-son dynamic perfectly. She would continue to voice Max in the 1995 feature film A Goofy Movie, further solidifying her place in the Disney pantheon. Her voice became the definitive sound of the character for an entire generation. She was incredibly prolific during this period, lending her voice to numerous other projects, including the edgy animated series Duckman, Disney's The Little Mermaid series, and the Nickelodeon classic Rugrats. Her voice had become one of a select few that defined the sound of 90s animation. The story of Dana Hill's impressive career is one of remarkable talent, adaptability, and resilience. But to truly understand the woman behind the roles, we have to look beyond the filmography. We have to understand the immense, invisible, and all-consuming battle she was fighting every single day of her life. Behind the spunky characters and the professional success was a young woman grappling with the relentless, unforgiving reality of a chronic illness that gave her no days off. In a remarkably candid 1982 interview with People magazine, a 17-year-old Dana, fresh off the success of Shoot the Moon, gave a rare and unflinching glimpse into her daily struggle. She spoke of the constant, grueling regimen that ruled her life, the 4 daily insulin shots, the endless, painful finger pricks to test her blood sugar, the constant obsessive vigilance over every single thing she ate. She described the profound psychological toll it took, the feeling of being different, of being fragile in a world that prizes effortless strength. She spoke with a raw honesty about the cruelty of other children when she was first diagnosed, who feared her diabetes was contagious and shunned her. And she spoke of her anger, a righteous fury at the disease that had stolen her athletic dreams and now threatened her life at every moment. "I am so angry, and I'm not a bit sorry for it," she said with the fiery honesty that defined her. "It's a rotten, lousy disease. It's a pain in the neck. It's a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week job." But she refused to be a victim. That same fighting spirit that had made her a champion gymnast was now her primary weapon against her illness. She channeled her anger not into self-pity, but into a ferocious ambition. "What I want to be," she declared with a defiant grin, "is the first 4'11" vaudevillian." Her parents, Ted and Sandy, were her staunchest allies in this lifelong fight. They witnessed her private struggles, the mood swings caused by fluctuating blood sugar, the moments of intense pain and frustration that the public never saw. Her father, Ted, spoke of her incredible toughness with a mixture of awe and paternal pain. "She's an old-timer," he said fondly in that same interview. "She's been through more than most 60-year-old men." They helped her navigate the treacherous world of Hollywood, where craft services tables laden with sugary treats were a constant minefield. They were her support system, her advocates, her protectors, and her biggest fans. Her illness also had a profound, if unspoken, impact on her art. She was able to tap into a well of pain, frustration, and vulnerability that most young actors, blessed with good health and carefree childhoods, simply couldn't access. When you watch her gut-wrenching performance in Shoot the Moon, you see a child wrestling with emotions that feel incredibly, terrifyingly real. Because in many ways they were. She understood loss. She understood anger. And she understood on a cellular level what it felt like to have her own body betray her. She poured all of that raw, unfiltered emotion into her characters. And it's what made her performances so powerful and so unforgettable. She also used her growing platform for good, becoming an advocate for diabetes awareness and speaking to other young people who were struggling with the disease, offering them not platitudes, but a refreshingly honest message of defiance and hope. The career of Dana Hill, when viewed through a modern lens, presents a complex and somewhat uncomfortable question. It's not a controversy in the scandalous sense of the word, but a deeper, more nuanced ethical debate about the nature of performance and opportunity in Hollywood. Did the industry in some way exploit her illness? There is no denying that the physical manifestations of her diabetes, her short stature, her perpetually youthful face, and her unique vocal quality were the very things that made her stand out and defined her type. They gave her a marketable quality, allowing her to build a long and successful career, playing children and teenagers well into her 20s and even early 30s. An industry that is often obsessed with conventional cookie-cutter standards of beauty found a unique and bankable niche for Dana Hill. One could argue that this is a form of exploitation, that the industry profited from the symptoms of a life-threatening disease. It raises challenging questions about the line between celebrating an artist's uniqueness and capitalizing on a disability. It forces us to consider the pressures on performers to use every attribute at their disposal to gain a foothold in a notoriously competitive field. However, to view it only through that narrow lens is to do a great disservice to Dana Hill's own immense agency, intelligence, and ambition. She was not a passive victim being manipulated by unseen forces. By all accounts, she was a fiercely independent, witty, and determined young woman who was the primary architect of her own career. She and her supportive family made a conscious, strategic decision to turn a devastating negative into a professional positive. She took the hand she was dealt, a cruel and unfair one, and she played it to her absolute advantage. She couldn't be an Olympic gymnast, so she decided she would be a movie star. She refused to let her disease define her solely as a patient. She forced it to serve her as an artist. This wasn't a simple story of exploitation, but rather a complex, symbiotic relationship between a performer, her physical reality, and the industry that gave her a platform to share her incredible talent with the world. The long-term significance of Dana Hill's story is twofold, encompassing both her cultural contributions and her personal impact. First, she leaves behind an indelible and cherished mark on popular culture. As Audrey Griswold in European Vacation and as the definitive voice of Max Goof in Goof Troop and a Goofy movie, she is immortal. Her performances are woven into the very fabric of 80s and 90s nostalgia. For millions of people, her distinctive raspy voice is synonymous with their childhood. She brought an unforgettable spark of rebellious humor and relatable heart to characters that continue to be loved and revisited, ensuring that her talent will be appreciated by generations to come. But her more profound and perhaps more important legacy lies in what she represents. She is a powerful and poignant symbol of the daily unglamorous and heroic fight against chronic illness. At a time when many celebrities chose to hide their health struggles for fear of being seen as weak or uninsurable, Dana was remarkably and bravely open about her lifelong battle with diabetes. She put a public face on the disease, demystifying it for many and showing the world that it was possible to live a full, ambitious, and successful life despite its immense limitations. Her story has become a source of inspiration for countless individuals and families who are dealing with the daily grind of type 1 diabetes. She demonstrated through her actions and her art that a diagnosis does not have to be a life sentence of victimhood. Her life is a testament to the power of the human spirit to adapt, to persevere, and to find a new dream when the old one is brutally taken away. She was a warrior, and her story continues to inspire others in their own quiet, daily battles. As the years went on, the relentless 24/7 battle Dana had been fighting since the age of 10 began to take its final, irreversible toll. Decades of fluctuating blood sugar levels had done immense, silent damage to her body. She developed severe kidney problems, a common and devastating complication of long-term diabetes, and other related health issues. In May of 1996, her body, which had fought so hard for so long, began to shut down. She fell into a diabetic coma. For weeks, she lay unresponsive in a hospital bed, while her family and friends held onto a desperate, fading sliver of hope. Then on June 5th, she suffered a massive paralytic stroke. The fierce fighter who had defied her illness with such grit and humor for so long was finally overwhelmed. On July 15th, 1996, Dana Hill passed away. She was just 32 years old. The death of Dana Hill was a profound and deeply felt loss. It was the loss of a unique and singular talent, a voice that could never be replicated. But more than that, it was the loss of a human being who had faced her own mortality from childhood with a courage and a ferocity that was truly awe-inspiring. Her life was the ultimate tragic paradox. The illness that gave her the physical tools for her art was the same illness that silenced her far too soon. She was, as a friend once poignantly said, like a candle that burned twice as bright, but for half as long. When we look back on her work today, it is impossible to see just the spunky teenager in a comedy or to hear just the voice of an animated character. We see the fighter beneath. We hear the voice, and we now understand the incredible strength and resilience it took to produce it every single day. Dana Hill's story is a heartbreaking reminder of the fragility of life, but it is also a powerful and enduring celebration of the resilience of the human spirit. She took the worst that life could throw at her, and she transformed it into art. She refused to be silenced by her illness, and in doing so, she created a legacy of laughter, defiance, and unforgettable characters that ensures her unique, beautiful, raspy voice will never truly fade away. That's a wrap for today's video. If you enjoyed it, smash that like button, drop us a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss our new content. Thanks for watching.